Hello and welcome back to the Puncher's Chance podcast. In today's episode, we're going to be looking ahead at Sonny Edwards versus Galal Yafai in Birmingham on a Matchroom boxing show. So of course we have no review show this week because last week we didn't do a preview show for the Eubank fight. So this week, just the preview show for a big fight ahead and then a brilliant month of boxing following it. But that we'll save for another week. Straight into this week. Sonny Edwards, Galal Yafai. It's a brilliant fight, isn't it?
Yeah, it probably won't get the credit it deserves as a big fight because they're fighting obviously a flyweight. The smaller weight classes probably don't get the same sort of love as the bigger weight classes, but I think this will be one of the best, especially domestic fights we'll see all year. Obviously there's a lot of history between the two of them with the families and everything. I think it's like they're trying to play that side down slightly, but it's definitely there for the both of them. I think as fight week progresses now we'll see it come out a bit more, I think.
Well, you saw it at the launch press conference, didn't you, where Charlie was there as well, talking, shouting, trying to get involved. He wanted to be on the undercard, and yes, like you said, it's probably at the top of one of the best fights that we could possibly see all year. And the recognition that these flyweights get, they don't get a lot of it, and I think it's good that they're main eventing. And obviously Yafai, Olympic medalist, he turned pro in 2022 I want to say, and he's had a great run as a professional, went straight into 10 rounders. I think he's only been like the distance twice, and yeah, standing in front of him on Saturday night is a very tough opponent who, you know, has fought Bam Rodriguez, who we all talk about as being one of the pound for pound stars. Obviously lost that fight, but then went all the way back to Phoenix to get back to winning ways against Adrian Curiel, and now he's fighting in Birmingham in the Lions' Den, you can maybe say, for Sonny Edwards against Yafai, and yeah, it's a great fight.
I think you say obviously flyweights headlining this one, which isn't something you see all the time, but I think it's more of a showing of how big names Sonny Edwards and Galal Yafai are, more so than anything. You know, Sonny Edwards is a big name in his own right. He's everywhere. After that Bam Rodriguez fight, before that Bam Rodriguez fight, he was a huge name. And Galal Yafai won a title in his first ever fight, straight off the back of the Olympics. So it's yeah, like you said, I think it is going to be the best domestic clash on paper that we've seen this year. I think I can't think off the top of my head of a better one. And more importantly, whoever wins this will get a shot realistically at the WBC. I forget the guy's name, but a Japanese fighter holds that one at flyweight. Now that Bam's gone through, and there's a real opportunity for another one of them to pick up a world title, isn't there?
Yeah, well, that's what they'll both be aiming for. Obviously, Sonny Edwards, since losing that title, wants to get back to world title status. Yafai yet to compete for a world title, so this is his opportunity. And if you can beat someone of the calibre of Sonny Edwards, then you've got every right to sort of be competing. I think whichever one of these wins will give a good go in that world title fight. But really interested by this, like the old bloodline thing around it. It's not just with these two, obviously with the brothers as well, Charlie, Gamal, and all the history that's gone on there. These two have spent a lot of rounds with each other, like sparring, and even I watched last night the ABA's semi-final. The two of them were against each other where Sonny won on a split decision, and I think it'll just be just as close really this weekend. It's a really tough one to call, I think, I think it depends a lot on what Sonny Edwards turns up personally, but I think it's a tough one to call.
Do you think it's too early for Yafai taking a big fight like this?
Not necessarily, because I think you do need to make that step up eventually, and he's been so dominant in every other fight, and he will be the second, if he's able to win this and then move on to world title, he'd be the second from that particular GB group after Lauren Price, and you know, she done it in 7 in the women's division. I think if you're good enough, you're ready whenever you're ready. There's no point rushing it, but he's got 8 fights. Get on there. What happens if you lose? He'll be back.
Yeah. I think it's more of a sense with him for this one. Like you said, he could lose this, and I don't think it damages his reputation. Like, as long as he sticks in with Sonny and like gives it a good go and doesn't get completely, it doesn't turn completely one-sided fight. I think like he can come back and try again in terms of world title. I think it's more pressure on Sonny because he's been at world title level, obviously lost that world title, and if you lose again now, then it's that trying to get back to that point then is more difficult than sort of making your way there the first time.
Yeah, it's a bit. for Galal Yafai, if you lose to a 21-win pro, you kind of go, oh well, I might be a better boxer, but he's a better professional. He's had the longer career. He knows what he's doing. Whereas if, like you say, if Edwards loses, it's like, well, not only is he a better boxer than you, but he's so much better that all your experience didn't end up playing into it. So yeah, it's just great, and it's great that, like you say, it's on the main event because it deserves that platform. Not everyone will be watching a flyweight fight if it's third or fourth down or second down on the bill even. But with this one, and hopefully with Matchroom's new plans, be a little bit earlier. It's not going to be sort of half past midnight or anything like this. That it will be a really good fight, and a lot of eyes will tune in for it.
And hopefully there's a big crowd there. And I think they've done it smart with this undercard. The undercard is stacked. I think it's one of the best of the year, and it all adds up to that main event where everyone's going to be in there. I'm hoping that there's going to be 5,000 plus in there, because I think that's a good amount of people.
Yeah, obviously with it being in Birmingham, which is like sort of becoming a bit of a hub for boxing, like domestically.
Yes, you've slowly coming back. You've
got a lot of fighters on the undercard. Like you look at Conah Walker, Suleiman, Aaron Bowen. Like all of them are sort of around the outskirts of Birmingham as well, like Coventry boys, Midlands boys. So it you're gonna have a good crowd, and hopefully they are all there for the night, and we'll watch Sonny Edwards and Galal Yafai as well.
It's all about the location as well with Birmingham, ain't it? Because what is it from us, like 2.5 hours, if that?
Yeah, it's
so
close.
It's close to everything, so everyone can come and watch it. And
yeah, I know it's not our end of year thing, but there could be a question line for saying that has the Resorts World had the best fights this year or the best cards this year as a venue in the UK? There's been so many with the Magnificent Seven that was there. I mean, just off the top of my head, there's been a lot of really great events.
That Essuman knockout there.
Yeah.
You got Brad Pauls, Nathan Heaney, Liam Davis, Masood. I mean, wow.
Yeah, so, like obviously they're doing the next Magnificent Seven in London, but like when you think of Magnificent Seven, you always sort of just link it to Birmingham because of especially the cards they done earlier in the year, and I think it is definitely a place. I think you always sort of, I heard someone speaking about it the other day, like you always sort of have like moments across the years where like Manchester has been the hub and then Liverpool, but I think they will always have quite a big backing anyway, so but it's nice to have Birmingham as like another place that people can go and watch boxing regularly as well.
Yeah, I mean obviously with Pat Brown now signing for Matchroom as well, I think that Manchester, there's certainly an aim for Manchester to come back round with Ant Crawler as well. So there's so many good fighters out that way, but even on the rest of this card, we've got a Commonwealth title fight on the kind of, there's an English title fight, but that Commonwealth Kieron Conway, Ryan Kelly should be a really good fight. It's two fighters with losses on their record. They're not perfect, but it's going to be a scrap, isn't it? Realistically,
yeah, that's what this for me. If the main event isn't fight of the night, then this could give all of that a run for its money. But it's quite interesting. Kieran Kelly, of course, is coming off a draw to a certain Welshman in Jerome Warburton that we've seen a lot of lately, and he's lost on a split decision to Brad Pauls, so that shows that he's actually at a decent level. If he's losing to someone like the calibre of Brad Pauls, who's now fighting Denzel Bentley in a couple of weeks, what's that now, a week actually from Saturday night, it's a great fight. Kieron Conway, of course, coming from Japan, that prize fighter tournament that I believe if he won would have had £1 million. I could be wrong. That's all been cancelled now. Well, delayed, whatever you want to call it. But he's all about now coming back, and he's focusing domestically, and he's at this level now of Commonwealth where the next step, if he gets through this, which I kind of expect him to do, it's not going to be easy, but I do expect him to come through, is then push on in 2025 to see how good Kieron Conway is, because I think the feeling for me is he hasn't reached his full potential yet, and I think Saturday night, if he gets through with flying colours, 2025 could be a big year for Conway.
I mean, he's in amongst a brilliant division in the UK as well. You mentioned some of the names: Brad Pauls, Nathan Heaney, of course, Tyler Denny, Hamza Shiraz, the guy who held the Commonwealth and has just vacated it. Chris Eubank, I think, is Chris Eubank Jr. is going to be fighting at middleweight, so it's a stacked division in this country. So if you can domestically pick up a Commonwealth belt, then you kind of have you
can run the place, can't you? You can be calling the shots,
which is what you really need to be doing with that. But his only real losses come to Amo Williams, obviously top fighter, Suleiman Sissoko, another top fighter, and then I think he's got a draw to Derek Azazi, who I forget who he fought, but he fought someone recently and put up a really good fight.
I think Azazi beat Conway.
I thought it was a draw. I might be wrong.
They drew.
I can't remember. But either way, it's he's a good fighter. It's going to be a tough test. But also Ryan Kelly, like you said, is a good fighter in his own right. He's again got a few losses on his record, but that doesn't make you a bad fight. He's got 19 wins. You don't do that by accident.
I think two others will be keeping an eye on that British title fight on the 7th. I know Jerome Warburton is I think he's the mandatory for the next British fight, but obviously with Kelly again a draw against him last time, maybe you could make the argument there that the winner fights Jerome for that sort of spot. It opens up another potential fight and another good domestic fight to watch. So yeah, it's be a really good fight. I think I like Conway is probably edging in terms of the favourite going into it from the people he's fought compared to Kelly. But yeah, it'll be another good fight to watch.
I think as well though, Pauls and Bentley, they're both at points in their career where I think if they do win that fight, they're going to be wanting to kick on pretty soon. They're not going to be hanging around at those domestic levels. So regardless, I think there's going to be a lot of room domestically at the middleweight division for belts to be picked up. And there's a lot of fighters that are going to want to be getting back involved with them. Tyler Denny, Nathan Heaney, one of the winner of these boys, are going to be wanting to get back in there. So it makes for some really great fights, hopefully, in 2025, and obviously some possible Matchroom versus Queensberry fights in there as well, which always adds a little bit of extra spice. Another Matchroom versus Queensberry fight. Oh, how did I do that? That was
scripted.
Cameron Vuong versus Gavin Gwynne. We have got an interview with Gavin up on the channel, so check that out. He looks confident. He sounds confident. He seems confident. But Cameron Vuong, every time he's been in the ring so far, 6 times, has looked very confident. It's a good fight, isn't it? It's a tough test.
Oh yeah, it is very tough, and it is that. No, the phrase that always gets thrown about is it too soon, and have they thrown him in deep water too quick? But Vuong's obviously going to be super confident, and if he can get a win against someone like Gav, who's obviously fought a British title level 3 times, a European champion. He's just come off, obviously, his last fight was against Mark Chamberlain, and everyone knows how good Mark Chamberlain is. So if Vuong can make a statement here against Gwynne, then it'll be massive to sort of kick him on in his career. But it might be a sense of because Gav obviously being Merthyr boy and having that connection there, but I really think this is a dangerous step for Vuong. And Gav is still very, we've seen him training, he looks in top shape, so I think it's a very risky test for him.
New weight, new coach. Listen, when I saw this fight was announced, I think it's a bit like how I can compare it to when Jared Anderson and Martin Piccoli was announced as a fight, and a lot of people thought, why is Top Rank putting Anderson in against that? And that's the same for me, but I think it's good to see that Vuong is willing to get tested, and he's going to get tested on Saturday night, because Gwynne simply has to win on Saturday night, I think. And one good thing about Gav is whenever he has a loss, he always bounces back. That's one of the top skills he has. And yeah, listen, the Welsh bias in me is saying, Vuong's got no chance, Gwynne's going to absolutely walk through him. But it's a good fight. This, for me, again, it's a 50-50. You can balance it up in arguments for Vuong, arguments for Gwynne, but I think Gwynne has to win on Saturday night. He doesn't have to look good, but he just needs to get the win to then push on again, because you look now at where the winner of this fight can go. Josh Padley beat Mark Chamberlain. Could that be the name to go for? Or for Gwynne, is it the rematch then in 2025 with Mark Chamberlain?
I don't know about the Mark Chamberlain fight, just because I don't think you bother fighting Mark Chamberlain with no belts on the line, because
True.
Why would you? He's a dangerous man, and probably a man that had an off night in Wembley. But I think really both fighters stand to gain a lot from this fight. If Cameron Vuong can beat Gwynne, particularly if he can beat him comprehensively, then you really announce yourself, I am at minimum a European title level fighter right now at 7-0.
That's what Gav is.
I'm ready to go. That's what I mean. So if you beat Gavin, then you'll say I'm at that level now. But if Gavin Gwynne can beat Cameron Vuong, it's like, okay, well, you've beat a really strong upcoming prospect who's shown a lot of talent. Maybe he's not, maybe there's still life in his career yet, which I do generally think there is, particularly now under new coach, and it's just gonna be a good fight. I'm trying to be as kind of level as I can be, but it's hard because I haven't seen Vuong in training, so I don't know how he looks. I don't know how he.
And all you're
seems.
going off is his last performance as well on that Wembley public workout. And for me, I've seen a lot of people saying, "Oh, he looked quite decent." For me, I didn't think much of it.
He looked slick and he looked good without looking amazing.
The only concerns I've got though with Vuong is when as the rounds go on. I believe he's going to start very quickly, but as the rounds go on, I think that's where it plays into the advantage of Gwynne. I think because he's got a hell of an engine. You boys saw him train.
It depends on what Gavin turns up. I think like he needs to keep his composure, and Vuong is probably going to have the better of the early rounds, whereas Gwynne will favour himself later rounds and try and drag him into deep water. So I think that's what he needs to do, is just keep his head on, use the obviously massive size advantage that he has as a big. Well, what's this? Well, it's down as a lightweight, but I think they're fighting a super light, are they?
Oh, are they? I think they're fighting slightly above lightweight, but I don't think it's that super lightweight.
No, but yeah, he's obviously got a big frame for a lightweight, Gav. So I think if he just uses those early rounds to sort of take a bit of steam out of Vuong's legs and really chase him down in those later rounds, I think he could do a good job on the night.
Yeah, I think the game plan for either man is Gavin Gwynne get it into the later rounds of the fight, make it a fight, and then get through it. Whereas I think for Cameron Vuong, it's deal enough damage in the early rounds that Gavin's going to be slowed regardless. You know, it doesn't matter how good a tank you have. If you've taken damage in those early rounds, it's gonna hurt you in the later ones as well. So it will be a really interesting matchup, and one definitely to keep an eye on. And just like as we go down this card, I'm thinking, you know, I've got a free night Saturday night, so I'm thinking, at what point am I going to put on this card? What point am I going to start watching? And when you look at Conah Walker, Lewis Ritson, it's like, well, I'm not going to miss that, am I? That's a fight. That's a really good fight.
Yeah. Oh, incredible. Walker's coming off potentially one of the fights of the years against Crocker, yeah. For some reason I was going to call him something else. Without the R. No, I think when you look at it, this card, top to bottom, is a bit like the last time Matchroom went to Birmingham, where we all looked at it and we said, you have to be watching it from 7 p.m. or even earlier, because we've got a Welshman making his pro debut in Taylor Bevan. But I think for me, this fight, both men are coming off a loss, and I think there's a lot on the line in career-wise for Lewis Ritson in this. I think you look at his last couple of fights, obviously back-to-back defeats to O'Hara Davis, Paddy O'Donovan. You know, we're speaking of a man who back in the day was meant to be headlining at St James's Park in the future, and now we're potentially looking at a man that on Saturday night, if he gets beat and he gets stopped, this could be the end for him. And as much as it hates me to say, because I really, really like Ritson, I think he's one of the best characters in British boxing, I just think there's a lot on the line here for Walker, and both men can't afford to lose, because Walker now, if he loses here with Ritson, he stays at this level of the top to British fighters, and if he wins, he can then push on. But yeah, listen, it's a great fight, and when you talk about what's on the line for both of them, I think it makes for an ingredient of both men are going to leave it all in there, and I don't see this going the distance.
No, probably not. Conah Walker's one of those fighters that either it's a fight of the year contender, or he'll blast or get blasted out of there. There's kind of no real room for feeling him out, and let's have a few rounds, let's see what we can do, let's go around in circles. It's, I'm going to hit you, you're going to hit me, I think I can hit you harder than you can hit me.
Yeah.
Let's have it, you know, that sort of thing, which is, for me, that's what British boxing is all about. I know it's all lovely, it's brilliant to see a quality, great boxer go out and outbox someone, but there's now better than when they just, you know, tie their front feet together and have a bit of a scrap, is there?
Yeah, he's a brilliant fighter to watch. I'm a big fan of Walker. I watched him a few years ago when he fought in Cardiff for the English title. He lost on a split decision that night against Samuel Antwi, I think it was. Yeah. But I really enjoyed that fight. It was like, it's the like you said, type of fight that you want to watch sometimes. Just stand there in the middle of the ring and just want to go for it. And I think that's what it'll sort of turn into, this sort of fight, I think, on Saturday night with these two. Ritson obviously has got bags of experience himself, a former British champion. He become British champion
very quickly. Yeah.
So
what was it, 4 minutes?
I think like he's probably at more of the latter stage of his career, so can be seen as a bit more of a gatekeeper at this point, and Walker, like, coming off that Crocker fight, where some people had him as a possible winner in that. It was a close fight between the two of them. Like you said, it was one of the fights of the year. So he's definitely at that level, because Crocker himself is kicking on towards sort of European world honours. So I think a win year for Walker will probably propel him to another big fight and another test of what sort of level is he really at.
Yeah, it is a test, and it's good. It's a good test. And it's just, it's the way to fill out a card like this.
Yeah.
You know, you don't need every fight to be a phenomenal prospect against, you know, a man no one's ever heard of who, you know, spent his weekend fixing someone's garden fence or something, you know.
And then just turned up the fight,
Yeah, you do. Not every fight, you know, that has
a
it's,
TBA.
Yeah. You know, those have their place in boxing to a degree, but, you know, some of these fights are actually the best way to fill out a card, particularly with Walker being relatively local from Wolverhampton. You know, he'll bring a good crowd. It's a good chance for friends and family to go see him fight, and, you know, I'm sure he'll put on a good performance. You mentioned TBAs, and still a TBA on my screen. I think you were saying earlier it has been
you're gonna
to
do
his
that,
fighters, but Callum Smith, the youngest of the Smith brothers, obviously fought the likes of Better BF. Who's he fighting this weekend?
Carlos Galvan of Colombia. So, thank you. Carlos. I'm quite happy. Carlos, he's fighting a Carlos.
But
who, let's be honest, is a guy that's getting paid to lose on Saturday night. But it's nice to see Callum Smith back, because I think we were talking about when he lost to Better BF back in, what was it now, January? Could this be it for Callum Smith? And we were expecting him not to step in the ring again. I think it's just nice to see him get back out there, get the ring rust out of him, and potentially then in 2025 he's maybe seen what they're doing over in Saudi Arabia and has maybe thought, I want a piece of that, I'm going to go again, and hopefully he does, because it's good for British boxing. But yeah, Saturday night is just about getting back in there, getting back under the lights, and seeing if he still got it. And I believe he still got it a lot, because in that Better BF fight I thought he had a lot of success early on, and that's the thing with Better BF, he gives you that sense of false security and he gets you out of there. But no, it's good to see him back in there, and hopefully he'll get the win, obviously, but hopefully now we can potentially see another big main event up in Liverpool, because I think for me, when you look around the UK at some of the best crowds, Liverpool's the one that stands out for me.
It feels like a lifetime ago since he fought Better BF on there.
It was January, wasn't it?
And we got 3 questions on that January, so
it feels like a long time ago. But yeah, I think his plan would probably be looking to move in towards Saudi.
Yeah,
it'd be. I don't know where he quite fits in at the moment though. Like whether like someone like Boatsy will look at him and think, oh, that's a good name to get.
Queensbury 5v5.
Like, but Boatsy's waiting for that world title shot, and he obviously so. I don't know, it'd be interesting. Obviously we'll see more of what their plans are with him, but it just over the last few years there's obviously been those big gaps in his career where he took near enough 2 years out before he was back in with Better BF, and
yeah, like you can't do that, can you?
You don't have a tougher test to come back to than the undisputed, is now the undisputed champion of the weight class. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what his sort of aims are, like whether it's chasing titles or chasing money is probably the deciding factor in that. But yeah, I don't think we'll find out more until whatever happens this weekend. Obviously he's got to get through. I know you said he'll win comfortably, but you can only beat what's put in front of you, and he needs to obviously get through this first before he looks at anything else.
But his opponent's the Colombian light heavyweight champion, so he's coming with force. But in his last fight he lost via KO by a unanimous decision, In his last fight in Europe, he lost by KO in Cologne. But in his last fight, he lost in the Dominican Republic. So, he needs to fight to come back to. But if you don't think that Callum Smith's not going to win, I think that's a bit...
Yeah, I think why this fight? And I don't mean that in a bad way, but
because the announcement was like 11 days ago.
Yeah, I'm genuinely just thinking, what is the thinking? Do they want just another camp so he can get back used to going through camp, get used to that sort of thing again? But when you're north of 30 fights, this is, what you're doing, don't you? You know what you're what works and what doesn't, and how you prepare for fights. So I think it does almost feel like you could get slightly better, but maybe it's difficult to find fights for somebody. You either fight somebody who's not that great at all, who'll come in for the money, or you have to fight someone really quite good who's willing to fight you because you're a good person to beat on their record, and it's difficult to find somewhere in between.
Maybe he's come back and he's potentially going to be fighting February 22nd.
Maybe, yeah, and they just
Saudi.
want an easy one to sharpen up.
Bit of ring rust in it, because if he was to wait till February, that's over a year again that he's out of the ring with. And if he gets in there with someone at a decent caliber again, like, I'm not saying he's going to get back in there with someone the likes of Beterbiev, but even someone like a Boatsi, or the people who are just under him, like Willie Hutchinson or Lewis Edmondson, any of those type of fighters, it's still a tough fight to come back to, even though he's got probably the more experience.
Yeah.
But it doesn't get tougher than a Colombian light heavyweight champion. So
I'm sure.
Roll on Saturday night.
I wouldn't fight him.
I wouldn't fight him. Bugger that.
Would you fight him? Your weight class?
Yeah, it depends on how much I'm getting paid for it, I think.
Fair enough. I'm sure if you're getting paid as much as Callum,
I would back
it,
you, Ben. Don't worry, I would back him.
Elsewhere on the card, Troy Jones, Michael Stephenson, the English light heavyweight title, another light heavyweight fight, and another really great fight, another domestic clash. I mean, is there anywhere on this card, bar sort of the journeyman, so to speak? There's not really anyone. It's all domestic, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
All over, which is always great to see. But this one looks like it should be a good fight. An English title fight's always a good fight, isn't it?
Yeah, it's normally the first title that someone will pick up in their career, and so I think it will be the first for Troy Jones, I'm pretty sure. Obviously a Birmingham boy as well, 11-0, so he's going to have massive backing on the night. I think it'll be a really good. That's when I think he'll start to really pick up in it, unless I know Suleiman is a good ticket seller, so whether he's on earlier in the night, but I expect him to be a bit later because of the amount of tickets he sells. So I think, I'm really looking forward to that one again. English title fights are always good, like you said, and it's a good first step in his career if he can pick a title up in front of his own crowd, build a bit more of a fan base, and go again. And
in his last fight, man, he fought Leon Willens, who we all remember pushed Ben Whittaker a lot when he fought him, and actually in that fight he did pick up the English title against Leon in Birmingham, actually. So yeah, this fight, like you said, all these sort of English titles, we've seen it a lot with us being in Wales with the Welsh title fights. They're always good because it's that first step to see if they're good enough now to start moving on in their career. And I think for Stevenson, I want to say he's lost a Central Area title fight before, but for Troy now, it's all about getting the win in front of his home people. And then I would love to see him against Ben Whittaker, but Ben Whittaker's got his own problems with Liam Cameron. But no, it's a great fight. And you even carry on looking down the card, you've got a professional debut of someone from the Olympics. I know we're a Welsh podcast, so we have to be a little bit biased. It's good to see.
Well, Commonwealth silver medalist, Team GB. He didn't make it through to the Olympic finals.
No, he lost in Italy. Yeah.
He made it through to the Olympic qualifiers. But yeah, Taylor Bevan looks like a really great, and obviously making his debut on this one. Suleiman's a great fighter. Bowen, it's
a great card. Well, Bowen's fighting another Welshman named James Todd. So
yeah, of course.
Yeah, these, like we said, these Birmingham cards, for some reason, all the best fight cards go to Birmingham now. Can we get one in Cardiff?
It would be nice.
There is an arena literally next door to us.
There is.
Well, we were close to getting one by all accounts, but
oh no, they just sent them up to Liverpool. Close enough.
It's annoying, and obviously Matchroom we've seen work in Cardiff as well. We've seen that, and the thing that the BBFC based in Cardiff, so there's quite often people will come to Cardiff for purse bids and this, that, and the other, and surely you walk through and you see the Principality and you just think, we should probably do another fight card here, surely, at some point. It's a country, a city, an area that loves boxing. It's got to happen.
Hopefully we get Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. Hopefully they bring it down here instead of...
The thing you want to do with that fight, though, is you want to pray for it to happen in November, December, January or February, because then we know it's happening in Cardiff.
Why?
With the indoors.
Oh, I suppose,
I would doubt... They've done it at Tottenham before and Wembley, but surely they would do it indoors just to avoid all rain and everything.
I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if they
just got a dream, haven't we?
I don't know if we even get them.
We're definitely not right next door to all this, mine. So
I don't know if we even get those guys in the UK much more anymore. I don't know what the interest is from Riyadh season to put more events on abroad, and if that would be the UK again, who knows? But it would be nice. But back to this one. We're dreaming big here. We're dreaming. This is maybe an
We
end
have
of year.
dreamed big there, haven't we?
This is end of
Fury
year
AJ,
show,
yeah.
end of year show kind of territory, which isn't that far away, but it's a little bit yet. I think, other than the fact that this is just a brilliant card, we've called all the best fights. You know what comes next, didn't you, Harry?
The best time of the week. Predictions
on the Boxing News app.
It's my favourite time, this is, because we didn't do it last week, so I didn't have the stress of Ben messaging in the group chat that he's won or something. We haven't seen that lately as well.
No,
Because he's not been winning.
I haven't won many recently.
I've won a couple. I've won the last couple in a row. I've been on fire. I've been in the top 20 odd for the last 2 in a row. So
all right. Let's get on with the
Just
predictions,
saying.
though. Come on, man.
I'm laying down my credentials before we start. Which is
He's
no
looking
doubt
for a
gonna-
job. He's looking for a job.
Yeah, there's no doubt going to stitch me up in this one. But Troy Jones, Michael Stephenson, light heavyweight 10 rounder, like we said. English title fight. Harry, who have you got? And by what means?
Troy Jones by late stoppage.
Fair enough. What are you
I've
going
gone Troy Jones by decision.
for? Same.
Bugger.
There's no new news there. Me and Ben have gone different to Harry. Surprise, surprise. Conah Walker, Lewis Ritson, welterweight 10 rounder. Ben.
I've gone Conah Walker by stoppage.
Same. Ooh. We're all going to go similar. No, this one.
Right. Who are we going to go with this fight then?
Cameron Vuong, Gavin Gwynne. We said it, lightweight 10 rounder. I'm going to go for a Vuong decision.
Ooh.
Right, the
I don't-
podcast is finished now, but
I don't
nice
want.
knowing you.
I by no means want it, but I do think he probably goes into it slight favourite.
I think it's too soon, and I've bought into that now. So if I look like an idiot come, when are we going to film this next Tuesday, then so be it. But I believe...
This is what I love about you, Harry, is I feel like I could just text you on the morning of the thing, just one sentence, just like, blah de blah looks good,
Yeah.
and that's your mindset.
I honestly think this is too soon for Vuong, and I believe that Gwynne will get the decision.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say I can fully see it happening.
I'm more than happy to look stupid as well. I think Gwynne wins, but I think he also stops him.
Go on.
Ooh,
Come
he's gone
on.
big. I respect
Come
it.
on, Gav.
I
That's what we
expected
like
no
to
less
see.
from you.
Shame on
but-
you, Sam.
I
Shame on you.
just think he's got the real potential to get to him in those later rounds, and
No, he absolutely does.
Well, we've seen that against Jeff Fafori as well with Vuong. So we're only going off recent fights.
I'm more than happy
But-
to be proved wrong. But
But has he learned from that?
True.
It's interesting, but like you say, it definitely has the possibility to be too early for Vuong. Definitely has that possibility. Kieron Conway, Ryan Kelly, middleweight 12 rounder, like we said, Commonwealth title fight. Harry, what's your prediction for this one?
Conway decision.
yeah, I've gone the same.
On the same.
Happy days.
Nice. But we're going to get a winner
The-
this week. We've had enough differences, which is good.
This main
This main
is a
event,
struggle.
Sonny Edwards, Galal Yafai. It's difficult.
I'm in the middle.
Flyweight 12 rounder. Well, if we're going in the route I've been going around, Ben, your predictions first. What are you saying?
I've honestly been going back and forth with this, and I think it depends massively on what Sonny Edwards turns up. If he gets dragged into a fight where he doesn't need to, I think it plays into Yafai's hands. I think Edwards picks up most of the early rounds, but Yafai will come on stronger. But I'm going to go for a very close Sonny Edwards points win.
I'm going to go for a Yafai points win.
Same.
I've
Home territory. Home turf.
Mine's not even that. I think the cut's going to play into it. I think the
Yes.
cut's going to reopen, and I think it's going to make it very difficult for
Because
Sonny.
the
to-
scar
I think
tissue looks really bad.
we play into these. We said the same about Fury and Usyk, and I just
Yeah, and who
No,
got
but
that right?
Look at this scar.
oh
Look
yeah,
at the
we
scar
got it
now,
right.
though.
But like in terms of the cut, I mean,
We did also. Do you remember the whole? It's always made me laugh. The whole Fabio Wardley Fraser Clark fight week.
All about their
Oh, that
nose.
cut
Yeah.
looks nasty.
Yeah,
man.
that's
That
what I
looks-
mean.
That's a scary cut. If that gets reopened, and then you're looking in the early round and Fraser Clark's out cold. So if I don't think Sonny Edwards quite has that in the locker. Do you? I don't think he's got that kind of one shot break your jaw kind of knockout
But
power.
everyone's
No,
got
but
a
like-
puncher's chance. So
Yeah,
come on
true.
now.
True.
there's also the thing of like
Is it too soon for Yafai? That's the argument.
I don't think so.
But with his
like
pedigree in the amateurs
he's a
and turning over pro, like you said, winning a title in his first fight, not fighting any fights other than 10 rounders, it does play into his hands. But I think yeah, Yafai's got that home advantage. He's going to have that crowd behind him. And like you said, it's just about which Sonny Edwards turns up. And Sonny Edwards is known for winning a lot of the early rounds and then taking his foot off the accelerator come 7 rounds and then to 12. So, no, it's an interesting fight. And, yeah, I think I've gone for Yafai, but I can honestly, you can make an argument for both men. And it could even be a draw.
I think the only thing that worries me is whether or not Yafai's had that fight that's tested him enough, and I don't really feel like he hasn't. You can look at that one of two ways: he's either been too good to be tested, or he hasn't been given a tough enough opponent early enough, and now he's going straight into a big fight. So it's so difficult to call.
There's no sort of feeling out period with these two either, though. With the amount of rounds they've spent with each other, they'll know exactly. Like, they only sparred. The last time they sparred, I think, was just over a year ago.
You've got to think as well that plays into why Yafai would have taken this fight, because on paper,
they definitely.
He must have seen something
he
in that
seems
start,
confident.
Yeah.
Like, they both seem confident, but like they both obviously really think that they can get the better of the other. So I'm really looking forward to watching it.
Yeah, absolutely. It starts off as well what is going to be the next month
I'm very
of
busy.
brilliant boxing. So if you haven't already, subscribe, because there's a phenomenal month of boxing coming up. Next week we got
about 50 shows.
Magnificent 7,
100 every
top
show.
tier.
Yeah,
We got a massive Welsh title fight. Ethan George, Willie Gelhini.
Paro versus Hitchens as well over in Puerto Rico. And then the week after that you've got Tasha Jonas and Lauren Price.
Monte Carlo, Dillian White returning.
And then the week after that, there's this small heavyweight fight. I can't remember which one it is. Over in Saudi Arabia, some small rematch or something. No one wants to see that. And then,
well, Johnny Fisher's on there.
of course. How could I forget? Yeah, that was the one I was on about. And then a new A as well coming back just before Christmas. And then it's Christmas, New Year's, and we start it all over again.
Bosh.
So looking forward to it. Subscribe on YouTube. Follow us. I think it's a follow on Spotify, on Twitter as well. We're even on Blue Sky as well. So we've gone woke. We've gone for the new channel, Facebook, all of that. Thank you all for listening, and we'll catch you all next week.
Punches chance. Punches chance podcast.